When people hear the word socialism, they think Soviet Union, Cuba, Venezuela. Is that what you have in mind?
Of course not. What we have in mind, and my policies most closely resemble what we see in the UK, in Norway, in Finland, in Sweden.
How are you going to pay for all of this?
Of course. She wants to be like Sweden. I mean, doesn't everybody want to be like Sweden? Who wouldn't want to be like Sweden? Seems like a pretty great place to be, right? Home of IKEA and those yummy Swedish meatballs. But these days, you know what? Not even Sweden is so thrilled with being Sweden. And it's because of overly liberal immigration policies. By the end of 2017, more than 100,000 Syrian refugees will have settled in Sweden. Refugees, they came from a lot of other countries as well. And you've got now violent crime, and the number of neighborhoods police label there as dangerous are on the rise. And it happens to coincide with this immigrant surge to a very small, homogeneous Scandinavian country. Gang-related shootings, assaults, they're now more frequent there, and those crimes include a 2017 terror attack carried out by an immigrant claiming allegiance to ISIS. Sweden's liberal immigration policies are actually the same kind of policies that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez endorses. Here she is just last night insisting we get rid of ICE.
The president should not be asking for more money to an agency that has systematically violated human rights. The president should be really defending why we are funding such an agency at all. Because right now what we are seeing is death. Right now what we are seeing is the violation of human rights.
Defund ICE? Get rid of it? I mean, really, would that work? Even in that socialist utopia of Sweden, it doesn't work. Here with more on the economic and the political challenges Sweden now faces since taking in so many Syrian migrants, we have author and charity leader Sarah Goff, who actually has spent a lot of time in Sweden and once lived there, as well as Fox News contributor Scott Martin. Good to see you both. Sarah, going to you first. Tell me about the changes in Sweden right now.
Sure. Trish, great to be here again.
Thank you.
And, you know, I've been married to a Swede for 17 years. We have 2 boys who have dual citizenship. I've lived in Sweden. We go there every year. I've learned the language. And here's a word for you. Utländsk bakgrund, and that means foreign immigrant. And that is the crux of how Sweden has been changing, and in a lot of ways becoming more like the U.S. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, in wanting to be more like Sweden, misinformed simply, because she's referring to an ideology that was more part of the 20th century, and it has been steadily changing since then. So now, in 2017, we have an immigration rate of 24% of the population. And most of those,
huge.
The largest immigrant population is refugees from Syria. And that's very different. 30, 40, 50 years ago, it was mostly Nordic countries that people were coming to Sweden from. And there was primarily a middle class, a very healthy middle class, and socialism worked, and it was a utopia society. But it's become more complex, and there's much more need and more people to take care of, and the socialist policies are being stretched. And with now a 2-class system, we have the middle class and a lower class, and people aren't happy. Things are definitely changing, and so it really doesn't uphold to say she would like to be more like Sweden, because Sweden is becoming more like the U.S., but on a much smaller scale.
And there are a lot of people that feel, Scott, really not happy about this in Sweden. I mean, they're saying, wait a second, what has happened to the fabric of our society? Can our economic system really support this? They want to do the right thing. They want to help. They want to be altruistic. They took all these people in, to Sarah's point, 24% immigration to population ratio. I mean, it's massive. They can't handle it. What happens to a society when they bite off more than they can chew and their welfare system doesn't permit it?
Yeah, it spirals out of control. To your point, Trish, people should be angry. They should be scared. I mean, you mentioned those stats about the attacks, the murders, the infiltrations, the gang activity. It is, and that's what's so weird about AOC, if maybe I could call her that. I think Krugman uses that, so I guess that's fair game, is that, you know, I'm not sure exactly she understands what she's talking about, because I get so confused when she opens her mouth these days, because was she talking about, like, the old Sweden, which is not really trying to be Sweden anymore, or is it the new Sweden, the Sweden of, say, 2020? Because even, like you mentioned, you touched on it, the economic policies in Sweden are changing, as you talked about with Sarah. I mean, they have privatized Social Security. You know, they have a massive privatization when it comes to Medicare. So there's things that I think AOC talks about that really maybe aren't things that she thinks Sweden is all about. So it leads everybody astray.
I get it. You know, sometimes I think she's a little bit naive and needs to be exposed to the world a little bit more, maybe do a little bit more reading and a little bit more traveling and come back with some more informed thoughts. Anyway, Scott, it's so good to see you. I'm sorry we have to run, but I want to get to this other story, and this is a woman-to-woman one.